The sun fell like honey across the manicured lawn as laughter tangled with the clicking of the camera. The bride stood at the center, wrapped in layers of ivory silk and control, her smile sharp enough to cut through air. Around her, bridesmaids adjusted their dresses, each trying to fit the perfect picture. The photographer lifted his lens, patient, professional, unaware he was about to capture more than beauty. The words came out smooth but venomous, a whisper that silenced the breeze. "You're not pretty enough to be in the photos." Every sound vanished. Eyes darted. One woman froze, her bouquet trembling, the sting spreading through her chest. The photographer's finger hesitated on the shutter, heart pounding as he saw what no one else dared to react to, truth breaking through perfection. Would you still smile if someone decided your worth was invisible? And what happens when the truth refuses to stay hidden? The laughter tries to restart, forced and trembling. The bride tilts her head as if nothing happened, already posing for the next shot. The bridesmaid adjusts her dress, pretending to fix the strap while hiding the shaking in her hands. The photographer takes another photo, though his lens blurs slightly from his unsteady breath. Behind every smile now lies a question, an unease, too raw to name. The air itself feels heavy with things unsaid, beauty turned brittle under the weight of cruelty. He wonders how many perfect photos have been built on pain like this. Guests begin to gather closer, drawn by the shimmer of the photo shoot, unaware they are standing in the aftermath of humiliation. The bridesmaid lowers her eyes, pretending to listen as another bridesmaid whispers about lipstick shades. The bride's laughter floats across the lawn, glossy and hollow. The photographer captures candid shots, each one heavier with the truth he can't unsee. How cruelty wears beauty's face so easily. He knows these images will haunt him. As the photographer directs the next pose, his voice trembles. He frames the shot. The perfect symmetry, the perfect light. But all he sees now is imbalance. The bride shines too bright, too polished, her confidence unnatural. The bridesmaid stands slightly off-center, fragile in the corner of the frame, her reflection caught in a mirrored vase beside her. Beauty and pain sharing one image. He presses the shutter, and the sound feels like a confession. The session ends with applause, as though cruelty were art. The photographer lowers his camera, his heart heavy. The bridesmaid excuses herself quietly, walking toward the edge of the garden where the light fades into shadow. He watches her go, unsure why he feels responsible for what just happened. He turns back to the bride, her smile glowing for one last photo, and something inside him whispers that the real picture hasn't been taken yet. The air turns soft and restless as guests drift toward the reception tent, unaware of the small fracture that just opened in the world of perfection. The photographer lingers behind, reviewing the captured moments, his thumb hovering over the screen as if afraid to see the truth frozen there. Each image looks flawless at first glance. Smiles, sunlight, lace, but hidden between frames, he notices the look that tells everything. The bridesmaid's quiet pain. The bride's satisfied smirk. He wonders if beauty is a lie people agree to believe. He lifts his camera again, no longer to serve vanity, but to record honesty, a rebellion disguised as art. At the edge of the crowd, the bridesmaid sits alone near a stone fountain, the sound of water masking the cracking in her voice as she breathes through what just happened. The music from the reception floats faintly in the background, laughter echoing like something from another world. She adjusts her dress, trying to make herself smaller, invisible again. The photographer watches from afar, torn between duty and empathy. He wants to speak, to tell her she didn't deserve it, but instead he raises his camera, not to exploit, but to understand. The reception hums with the rhythm of shallow conversations and clinking glasses. The bride moves like a queen among her court, glowing under fairy lights. Guests crowd around her, praising her beauty, her taste, her perfect day. The photographer follows quietly, his camera clicking in intervals, his lens no longer obedient. He captures what others miss, the cracks in the bride's smile, the way her eyes dart toward the fountain where the bridesmaid sits alone, and the quick flash of guilt she buries beneath her laughter. For the first time, the bride seems aware of how easily perfection can be undone. Later, as the sun fades and candles flicker alive, the photographer finds the bridesmaid again, now standing near the dessert table, pretending to be busy. He asks gently if she's all right, though both know the answer. Her voice trembles as she says she's fine, that it was just a joke. The lie floats between them like smoke. He lowers his gaze, snapping one quiet photo without asking, capturing her strength disguised as calm. It's the most honest picture he's taken all day. As night deepens, the photographer steps outside the tent, needing air. Fireflies hover over the dark garden like sparks of truth waiting to ignite. From inside, laughter erupts, hollow and distant. He scrolls through his photos again, and suddenly one image freezes him. The moment the insult was spoken, the exact second the bridesmaid's eyes broke. It's raw, trembling, beautiful in its honesty. For the first time, he feels that maybe his lens wasn't meant to glorify, but to reveal. And somewhere deep inside, a dangerous thought begins to grow. Morning light seeps into the suite like truth sneaking through cracks in a lie. The bride sits before a vanity mirror, robe half-tied, scrolling through tagged posts from last night. Compliments flood her screen, but the smile she wears feels rehearsed, stiff at the edges. Behind her reflection, the photographer's silent gaze from dinner flashes in memory, a reminder that someone saw what she tried to hide. Downstairs, the bridesmaid's voice floats faintly. Polite laughter. Trying too hard. The bride turns toward the sound, unsettled by how much it echoes in her chest. Perfection. Once her armor, now feels like glass, and she senses it starting to splinter. Or down to mortem extinct. No, see all. Downstairs, the bridesmaid pours herself coffee, surrounded by half-empty plates and leftover flowers. Guests from out of town linger, talking about the photos soon to be shared online. One woman jokes about who looked best, and another whispers something that sounds like pity. The bridesmaid pretends not to hear, her cheeks warming. The photographer arrives quietly, camera slung around his neck, eyes tired but alert. Their gazes meet. A silent understanding passes between them. She realizes he saw it all. He realizes she knows he did. In that moment, truth feels like a secret both heavy and freeing. The guests begin to talk, softly at first, like wind in tall grass. Someone mentions they saw the bride snap at one of her bridesmaids yesterday. Another insists they heard something worse. Gossip spreads faster than champagne spills, curling around every smile. The bride senses it, though no one says it aloud. The photographer walks through the chatter, quiet and invisible, recording everything with his calm precision. His lens catches what words can't, the way people's eyes linger on the bride too long. Admiration now laced with doubt. Even perfection has shadows when light hits it just right. Later, while arranging photos on his laptop in the side room, the photographer pauses on one image. The bridesmaid's face half lit by the sun, holding herself together seconds after the insult. It's both painful and beautiful. The rawness in her eyes tells more truth than any posed frame. He wonders if it's wrong to show it. But then he remembers the bride's voice, soft and cruel, and decides that some moments aren't meant to stay hidden. He leans closer to the screen, the reflection of his own eyes blending with hers, and clicks save. The afternoon air feels heavy as the final farewell photos begin. Guests gather for one last round of smiles, pretending the weekend hasn't shifted beneath them. The bride insists on group shots, reclaiming control through choreography. Who stands where, who smiles how. The photographer obeys, but his focus has changed. His camera no longer sees what she wants him to see. Through his lens, he catches the smallest detail. The bridesmaid's faint smile, steady this time, unafraid. For the first time, she isn't shrinking from the frame. She's reclaiming it. Night wraps the estate in silence, broken only by the hum of a laptop and the faint clatter of keyboard keys. The photographer sits alone in his small studio, surrounded by flickering monitors and the faint scent of roses from a half-wilted boutonniere. Thousands of photos spill across his screen, each one perfect in color and composition, yet empty in soul. Then he finds it again, the moment she said those words. The bridesmaid's shock, the bride's smirk, the hush that followed. His stomach tightens as he stares at it, realizing that no edit can soften what's real. Beauty, he thinks, shouldn't hide cruelty. It should expose it. He begins to sort through the sequence, frame by frame, moment by moment, each click pulling him deeper into the story his camera told without permission. The bride's laughter, the bridesmaid's silence, the shifting eyes of guests pretending not to notice. Every detail becomes a confession, and the line between documentation and truth blurred. He adjusts contrast, highlighting emotion instead of perfection. Outside, rain begins to fall, tapping softly on the window like applause for honesty. When he looks up, his reflection stares back, tired, certain, and ready to do something he's never dared before. Across town, the bride sits with a glass of wine, scrolling through early photo previews on her phone. Each image feeds her pride. Perfect lighting, perfect smiles, perfect her. She doesn't notice the faint unease in her chest, the silence from the photographer's messages. Her mother compliments her taste while glancing at her reflection like it's a mirror of success. Yet, beneath that sparkle, there's something hollow. For the first time, she wonders if people will see what really happened behind the lens. If beauty alone will still be enough to protect her when the pictures come out. The bridesmaid receives a late-night message, a shared folder link. For a long time, she just stares at it, heart pounding. When she finally opens it, her breath catches. No filters, no edits, no staged perfection, just truth. The raw photos show everything. The insult, her pain, the quiet cruelty behind the bride's grin. She scrolls through them again and again, tears mixing with relief. For once, she sees herself not as not enough, but as someone real. She whispers thank you into the empty room, not knowing the photographer is awake too, waiting for her reaction miles away. In the quiet before dawn, the photographer makes his decision. His hand hovers over the upload button as the cursor blinks like a heartbeat. He adds a single caption. Not dramatic, just true. Sometimes the real story is hidden between the smiles. He exhales, clicks, and leans back as the progress bar fills. The sound of rain fades, replaced by the quiet hum of digital justice beginning to spread. He doesn't know how far it will go, or what it will destroy, only that the truth finally has a voice. And this time, it's his lens speaking. Morning arrives quietly, unaware that the world is about to erupt. The first notification chimes on the photographer's phone. 1 share, then 10, then hundreds. His post spreads like wildfire through timelines coded in perfection and filtered dreams. Strangers begin to comment, "This is real. You can feel her pain." Who would do that? The photos speak for themselves. No captions, no names, just truth raw and undeniable. Each click carries weight, echoing the sound of a camera shutter now turned into a call for empathy. Somewhere across town, a phone starts buzzing on a silk-covered nightstand, dragging a bride out of her illusion. The bride jolts awake, confused by the flood of messages. Her screen lights up with comments, some kind most sharp. The picture stares back at her, her own face frozen mid-sneer beside the bridesmaid's heartbreak. She scrolls faster, denial rising like heat in her chest. "Someone edited this," she whispers, though she knows it's not true. Her mother rushes in, voice trembling between anger and fear, muttering about lawsuits and reputation. But behind the panic, the bride feels something unfamiliar creeping in: shame. The kind that doesn't fade when the camera turns off. Across the city, the bridesmaid scrolls through the same feed. The same moment that once made her feel invisible, now lighting up millions of screens. Messages pour in from strangers who see strength in her pain, beauty in her honesty. For the first time, she doesn't shrink from her reflection. She stands taller, breathing differently, as if the world has finally seen what she always tried to hide: that her worth was never measured by someone else's cruelty. She sends a quiet message to the photographer. "Thank you, you showed me." And for once, she believes it. News outlets begin to pick it up. The wedding photo that broke the internet. Influencers repost it. Comment sections turn into battlegrounds of opinions about beauty, cruelty, and truth. The photographer watches in silence, unsure if he's done the right thing, but certain he couldn't stay silent. His studio fills with light, morning breaking like forgiveness. On his desk, the camera sits still, lens pointed down, finally at rest. What began as a job has become a confession to the world. That honesty, though painful, is the only kind of beauty that lasts. As night falls again, the bride sits alone in her darkened room, scrolling through comments that no longer hurt, just empty her. Outside, fairy lights from the wedding arch still flicker in the rain, a reminder of the moment she thought she owned beauty. Now, she understands too late that perfection built on cruelty always collapses. Across town, the photographer closes his laptop. The bridesmaid, smiling softly, posts one final message beneath the viral photo. Sometimes the truth saves more than it ruins, and the world keeps sharing. By morning, the world knows her name. The bride's inbox overflows, brands withdrawing deals, old friends unfollowing, even family members choosing silence. The pristine image she built begins to crumble like sugar in rain. She scrolls through endless threads, dissecting her every gesture, strangers analyzing her cruelty frame by frame. Each word feels heavier than the last, not because it's untrue, but because it finally is. Her reflection looks unfamiliar now. Not glamorous, just human, frightened, exposed. The perfection she once demanded now mocks her from every screen. For the first time, she wishes no one could see her at all. The photographer wakes to chaos. Reporters calling, requests for interviews, offers for book deals. But none of it feels like victory. He didn't post for fame. He only wanted honesty to matter again. As he scrolls through the coverage, he notices something new. A hashtag spreading. People sharing their own stories of being excluded, insulted, unseen. His post has become a mirror for others. He leans back, watching the ripple grow beyond him, realizing truth once released doesn't belong to anyone. It just moves, unstoppable, changing everything it touches. The bridesmaid stands before a mirror in her small apartment, brushing her hair while her phone continues to buzz. People call her brave, beautiful, real. She doesn't feel like a hero, just someone who stopped apologizing for being herself. When she steps outside, the city feels brighter. Not because it changed, but because she finally looks up. She passes a cafe window where her photo plays on a TV segment. For a moment, she stops and stares at the woman in the image, tearful but strong, and realizes she's looking at herself reborn. The bride's mother storms into her room, anger masked as concern. "We can fix this," she says, her voice trembling with fear of reputation, not remorse. But the bride doesn't answer. She's staring at one photo, the one where her cruelty bloomed like poison. Tears roll silently down her face as she finally understands what she became. For years, she chased beauty that made others small. Now she sees what it cost. "Maybe," she whispers, It's not supposed to be fixed, and her mother, for once, has no reply. The world begins to move on, but something remains changed. The photographer posts one last image, a candid shot of the bridesmaid laughing with the sun in her hair. He writes, "The truth isn't cruel. It's what happens after the lie breaks." Comments flood in, but he doesn't read them. He steps outside, feeling lighter. The bridesmaid, miles away, sees the photo appear on her feed and smiles through quiet tears. The bride, still scrolling in the dark, hesitates before liking it, a silent apology that no one will ever see. Weeks pass. The noise fades. What was once scandal has become story, a digital echo, drifting through timelines. The photographer walks along the same garden path where it all began, his camera hanging loosely by his side. The estate is quiet now, stripped of flowers and applause, just wind and memory. He pauses at the spot where she said the cruel words, the air still heavy with what lingered there. Yet now, he feels no guilt. He captured what was real, and sometimes that's all art needs to do. Hold up a mirror until someone decides to change. He raises his camera one last time, not to expose, but to remember. The bridesmaid sits in a small cafe surrounded by fresh flowers and sunlight, flipping through a photo album the photographer mailed her. No edits, no filters, just truth. She smiles softly at the sequence, at the story told without words. Humiliation, resilience, grace. When she reaches the last page, a note is tucked between prints. "You were never the background." Her eyes well up, but this time the tears don't sting. They feel like release. She closes the album, ready to start her own story, one that doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. The bride returns to the estate alone one evening, clutching a small bouquet of white roses, the same flowers from that day. She walks to the fountain and sets them gently on the water, watching them drift away. Her reflection ripples, fractured but calm. The vanity, the control, the obsession with beauty, it all feels far behind her now. She whispers a quiet apology to no one in particular, perhaps to herself. The air smells of rain and forgiveness. When she leaves, she doesn't look back. Later that night, the photographer sits at his desk, reviewing the final gallery. Among thousands of images, one stands out. The bridesmaid looking straight into the camera. Sunlight in her eyes. No smile, no mask. Just truth. He adds it to his portfolio under a new title. The courage to be seen. He doesn't post it online. Some stories aren't meant for the crowd. They belong to those who live them. For the first time in years, he closes his laptop without regret, feeling peace settle where tension used to live. Months later, the bridesmaid walks through a small art gallery where local photographers exhibit their work. In the corner, she stops. On the wall hangs her portrait. Uncaptioned, unframed, just raw truth, printed in soft light. She stands before it, smiling not because she's beautiful, but because she finally feels seen. Across the room, the photographer watches quietly, hands in his pockets, saying nothing. Their eyes meet once. A silent understanding, not of pain, but of healing. Outside, the sun rises higher, touching every frame in gold. The truth, once weaponized, has become grace.